Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the NXT review for the 5th of April 2022. The After Stand and Deliver deal here seems like they reset some stories, which I don't really understand. Doesn't really make a lot of sense, but most of what WWE doesn't make a whole lot of sense these days anyway. Fallout from Stand and Deliver, we go to NXT Championship changing hands twice since last Tuesday's edition. Among other title changes of the weekend, things are in bloom for new beginnings, I suppose. Not everything is new. Setting is returning to normal NXT back tonight, current home base of the soundstage at the Performance Center. Show kicks off with Braun Breaker. In his first appearance since becoming a two-time champion, Breaker fails to regain the title last Saturday, but Breaker is successful on Monday Night Raw. Gunther challenges the champion. Breaker's in the ring addressing the audience with his belt over his shoulder. Breaker then talks about the events of last weekend, win last night. Breaker even says he will one day headline WrestleMania. He's interrupted by Imperium. Gunther leads Imperium into the ring, where Gunther confronts Breaker. Gunther does not care what happened last weekend. All he cares about is the NXT title, which he says stands for being the best in NXT. Gunther tells Breaker he cannot call himself the best until he faces the ring general. Breaker then quickly responds, I've had a heck of a weekend, he says, but if you want to go, you got it. Breaker is not only accepts the challenge, but says the match is on for tonight. Marcel Bartel and Fabian Aichner are at ringside and flanked by Gunther, and then they were both approached from behind by the Creed brothers, and then they go off into the show, and they cut to commercial break. The Creeds attack Bartel and Aichner during the break, leading to a tag match between being joined in progress. Show resumes with commercials and no split screen. Creed brothers Julius and Brutus with Malcolm Bevins defeat Imperium, Bartel, and Aichner. Jules pins Bartel after Aichner bails on the match, leaving Bartel to the Wolves. Creed's attack and they hit the Pretty Deadly. According to the announce team, Vic Joseph and Wade Barrett, the tag bout was made official during the break. The announcers also explained that Creed blamed Imperium for not winning the tag team match at Stand and Deliver. Matches joined in progress during commercial break. It also goes through another commercial break. Imperium turns the tide, and during the split screen, Imperium targets the knee, and then they work over Brutus during the break, and then they hit the hot tag to Jules, and then the show returns. Jules is using strength, impressive suplex along the way. Aichner breaks up the pinning attempt and then tries to rally Bartel into making a tag. After miscommunication, Aichner leaves the match. He then strolls to the ramp and leaves the scene. Somehow, bleeding from the side of his head, Bartel is lost in this. Bartel is pummeled and takes some stiff shots from the Creeds. Bloody Bartel eats a sliding lariat from Jules, and Jules pins him for 3 count. Jules goes and with his hand wipes some blood off his opponent's face. The two masked assailants jump the Creeds after the match. After sliding into the ring, they hit the Creeds with folding chairs and then pull down their face masks, revealing themselves a tag team from the United Kingdom known as Pretty Deadly, and then they look to be new enemies for the Creeds. Toxic Attractions backstage with Mackenzie Mitchell for an interview. Former women's tag team champions of NXT vow to regain their championships tonight. Cameron Grimes head off to the ring for a promo, winning the NXT North American Championship last Saturday. After Stand and Deliver, Solo Sikoa challenges North American champion Cameron Grimes. Grimes is emotional, and he says he's going to the moon. He's interrupted by Sikoa. Sikoa addresses Grimes as he gets in the ring. Sikoa challenges Grimes for a shot at the title. He's like one of those respectful challenges seen in New Japan. And then they shake hands, sealing the deal. Handshake turns tense, and they both get face to face. Trash talk in the process. Joe Gacy's cutting a promo with Harlan, says that he's a lot without really saying anything at all. I've got to grab my phone, so we'll be back in 2 shakes of a lamb's tail with more action here. And then again, we kind of go forward into a ultimate kind of situation. Gacy's cutting a promo with Harlan, says much without saying anything. Draco Anthony snaps Zion Quinn, causing Quinn to get in his face. Quinn tells Anthony he needs a lesson in respect. Tiffany Stratton cuts a promo on Sarai. Dexter Loomis with Indy Hartwell versus Duke Hudson with Persia Parata goes to a double countout. Loomis and Hudson both counted out after their girlfriends interfere. Hudson hits a cheap shot on Loomis before the bell begins. Loomis then continues to fight back and plants Hudson with a Uranagi. Works over Loomis. Loomis then comes back in pretty quickly there. Hudson's in control. Hits chin locks and a bunch of them. Loomis then hits a nip up and leaps up to his feet and springs into a leg drop. He then is on fire. Hudson then bumps to his feet and hits a comeback. Fight spills out of the ring. Tug of war ensures both running over into the ring post. Girlfriends ringside come to their aid. Hudson and Loomis are counted out of the ring, ending the contest, and this is a complete waste of time. Imperium is backstage in the locker room. Bartel is yelling at Gunther, who tells him to get his head straight. Same goes for Fabian. Gunther vows to restore honor to the great sport by winning the NXT title tonight. Gunther insists there can be no distractions. Anyway, Toxic Attraction, JC Jane and Gigi Dolan defeat the Women Tag Team Champions, Gonzales and Kai, to regain the titles. Jane pins Gonzales after Toxic Shock. Distraction by Mandy Rose. Wendy Chu also has a brief cameo, but plays a little part in the finish of the match. Teamwork from Gonzales and Kai at the start, even though they were once mortal enemies. Now they're back to being friends. Now they're back to being losers. Anyway, WWE storyline writing is horrible. They recently reunite and they win the tag titles in Dallas during the pre-show of Stand and Deliver. Bout is okay, and then they're given more time. And then in the match, champs are doing well. Kai then hits the tag off of Peril. A tag to Gonzales and clears house. She attempts to climb ropes. Gonzales trips her up and then becomes tied to Tree of Woe. Show cuts to commercial break. Toxic Attraction then works over Gonzales after the break, and then they're targeting the leg. Hot tag to Kai, and then she runs wild with a series of face wash kicks. Blind tag to Toxic Attraction, and Kai is unaware. She soon cut off, and then there's a double down. Match stalls. Wendy Cho rushes into ringside, seemingly to distract or interfere. Women's champion Mandy Rose appears ringside and throws that off balance. Dolan then turns around and walks into the clutches, and then goes for a finisher. Rose then distracts referee. Jane rushes into the ring and hits chop block to Gonzales and injures the leg. Gonzales goes down, selling the leg. Not a big surprise there. Double team by Toxic Attraction, and then they execute Toxic Shock on Gonzales. Jane then hooks the leg and covers Gonzales 1, 2, 3. New champions, and basically making the Stand and Deliver show relatively useless. Anyway, another Joe Gacy promo, more just words for the sake of words. Tony D'Angelo becomes a made man. AJ Grinnell introduces D'Angelo for made man ceremony. And then there's a card with his blood on it. Janelle then seems to make mistakes with some of his lines. D'Angelo's given a ring, making him the Don of NXT. Segment doesn't really do anything except waste time. NXT Tag Team Champions MSK cut promos talking about them winning the titles again last weekend. Grayson Waller, flanked by Sanga, interrupts MSK. Sanga then speaks, telling them that they are not champs for long. Looks like Waller is kind of out there. Dakota Kai is backstage, and she's unhinged again. And ultimately, that's where that goes. Yelling into the camera, and there is a segment with None other than um, Lash Legend and Dakota Lyons. I mean, ultimately, or Nikita Lyons, there's very basic stuff here. Um, Needless to say, it's kind of just, uh, Legend isn't ready to be in there. They don't really seem to care about this. It is what it is as far as just filling time. And the match breaks down into a much more, um, I guess you'd say basic thing, but anyway, uh, ultimately, um, the show's rematch is pretty simplistic. Anyhow, um, kind of going back forward, and then um, Lions pins Legend clean in the middle. Obviously looking overly choreographed, and then structured like a horse fight more than a typical women's match. Acrobatic movements along the way. Slugfest superplex for a near fall. Legend kicks out after the near fall. Lions then roars and uses a roundhouse kick but misses. Legend goes down, selling like she'd been kicked. Santos Escobar and his faction, Legado del Fantasma, happen to be in passing. Meet up with Tony D'Angelo after the pinfall. After the Lions does the splits into a leg drop and she covers Legend for a pinfall. Santos Escobar is up with the faction, and Legado del Fantasma happen to be passing, meet up with D'Angelo and AJ Grenett. Escobar congratulates D'Angelo on becoming Don of NXT. Escobar has experience as a boss, and his advice for D'Angelo: keep your business out of Legado del Fantasma's business, and they turn into bad parody of anyway. Just this is just, it's not wrestling. It's bad theater that I would expect at a high school. It's abysmal. But anyhow, then we go to Gunther and Braun Breaker. That is probably, I would assume, a feud for the future. Although I don't know that even WWE even plans futures these days. Needless to say, does this show need to be here? Probably not. But anyhow, and to me, Gunther and Breaker could have waited unless they really are calling Breaker up in a quick order. Anyhow, um, the match is, and again, as we go into Gunther and Ron Breaker, it's an interesting run to say the very least. Not exactly a major deal here. Um, by any stretch of the imagination, we begin to kind of see a little bit of, I guess, I don't even know what I call it weakness, but certainly some challenges as it relates to that whole outlay, in the sense of uh, Gunther and Braun Breaker. Obviously, Gunther can lead Breaker through a match, but him having that distinction is probably not the best for business, in the sense of, the modern fans, even though Gunther's got more than a decade experience, probably are just, I don't know, that his NXT American run or US run has been sufficient that fans buy him. And I wouldn't throw this match away either. I would have given it more build. But anyhow, so then we kind of go to what ends up being a really good match. So, good in terms of hard hitting. Breaker pins him clean to retain the title in a heck of a match. Hard hitting and realistic at times. Breaker's probably best match thus far. Um, there's an angle after the match featuring Rick Steiner. Gunther losing clean with no build doesn't make a lot of sense. Slow build at the start of the contest, to say the very least, and they lock up. Grappling contest soon develops, and then we get a slobber knocker. Pace quickens, and Gunther boots his adversary into right into Breaker's face. Gunther is nailing shots. Breaker fires up. Breaker then nails Gunther with a Steiner Slam spear by Breaker, and then Breaker attempts a military press, but he fails. Breaker then sells the arm like he's hurt, and Breaker then is selling big. Gunther targets the arm, goes right after him. The champion is in peril. Slow start, split screen, commercial break, and then Breaker is trying to fight back. Show returns from the break. Gunther chops him down. Breaker continues coming back to his feet. Gunther then chops him down again. Eventually, Breaker lands clotheslines and then takes Gunther off his feet a second time. Double down, and then there's a little bit of hope. Overhead suplex from Breaker. From Gunther. Gunther then counters a spear. Shotgun dropkick, powerbomb by Gunther for near fall. Gunther then follows up with a body press off the top. Breaker kicks out again. Short arm clothesline on the stiff side from Breaker, and then gets a shoulder up at the last minute. Breaker then explodes. Spear, and Breaker looks to rally and ultimately manages to come back. Gunther then hits a chop and chops him down. They trade strikes, and Gunther locks on a sleeper hold. Breaker then escapes and then hits with a lariat. Then goes right to the finish. Military press by Breaker and drops Gunther into the power slam. Breaker covers Gunther for a 3 count, and Breaker retains after pinning him. Rick Steiner appears on the video screen on the wall. Rick offers congratulations to his son. Camera zooms out to reveal Rick is tied up. Rick is bound by ropes and in a cage. Joe Gacy and Harland are behind the kidnapping. Gacy's cryptic promos throughout the night, foreshadowing a sinister act. Gacy then says maybe he can teach an old dog new tricks, and then the show goes off the air. I'm not necessarily sure that this is where you want to go with the angle, but hey, it's where they're going. Anyway, we will be back with more right after this.